February is Heart Health Month, and we are excited to share ways for you to help lower your cholesterol and reduce your risk for heart disease and stroke. In this webinar, we will discuss different types of fats, how they affect your health, and how to identify different fats at the grocery store or in your kitchen. Fat is an important part of a balanced diet and is necessary for many important bodily functions. Fat helps the body absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K, builds cell membranes and protective barriers around nerves, protects our bodies from trauma by adding a cushion around organs, is important in the production of hormones, and helps keep us warm. When we eat fat, it helps to slow down digestion, to stabilize blood sugar, and makes us feel full for a longer period. Cholesterol is a waxy substance that comes from two different sources. One source is the liver, and the other is the foods we eat. The body needs cholesterol to build cells, make vitamins, and make hormones. Generally, the cholesterol we eat does not affect our blood cholesterol levels. When you eat foods higher in cholesterol, your body will make less, and if you eat foods lower in cholesterol, your body will make more. This, however, is not true for all people. It is best to check in with your doctor to find out if you need to be concerned about how much dietary cholesterol you eat. Cholesterol gets carried through our blood by two different kinds of lipoproteins: low-density lipoproteins, LDL, or high-density lipoproteins, HDL. LDL, or as I like to remember it, lousy cholesterol, is deposited on the walls of arteries. This can lead to coronary artery disease, strokes, high blood pressure, and other complications. HDL is sometimes referred to as good cholesterol. HDL acts as a garbage truck, cleaning cholesterol from the blood and transporting it back to the liver for disposal. Higher levels of HDL can help lower your risk of heart disease and stroke. It is helpful to know your numbers. On this slide, we listed the target ranges for your total cholesterol, LDL, and HDL cholesterol. You will see the table is broken down into two sections. The section on the left outlines the limits for the general population, and the right section is for individuals with a history of coronary heart disease. So we went through the two different types of cholesterol and the target ranges for each. But how can we manage those numbers? We can manage our cholesterol through the foods we eat, specifically fat. Let's start by talking about the different types of fat. There are saturated fats, trans fats, and unsaturated fats. Saturated fats are responsible for raising your LDL, or lousy cholesterol. You can easily identify saturated fats because they are typically solid at room temperature. Trans fats can be naturally occurring or artificial. Milk and other animal products naturally contain small amounts of trans fats. Artificial trans fats were created using an industrial process that adds hydrogen gas to vegetable oils, which are otherwise known as partially hydrogenated oils. This makes them more solid and gives them a longer shelf life. In 2015, the FDA banned the use of partially hydrogenated oils. Unsaturated fats, unlike saturated fats, are typically liquid at room temperature, making them easy to identify. We prefer to eat more unsaturated fats because they help lower the lousy LDL cholesterol. These fats typically come from plant sources, such as vegetable oils, nuts, and seeds. There are two types of unsaturated fats: monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. Polyunsaturated fats include both omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids can help lower your LDL cholesterol and may improve your HDL cholesterol. On average, fat should make up about 20 to 35% of our total calories. This is a general guideline, and depending on your personal health concerns or issues, this may need to be adjusted. Talk to your dietitian to learn more about this. When it comes to saturated fat, we want it to make up less than 10% of our total calories. The American Heart Association recommends eating even less saturated fats, less than 5 to 6% of our total calories. Let's turn these percentages into something that is easier to understand. Let's say we need about 2,000 calories per day. Fat should make up 20 to 35% of these calories, or 400 to 700 calories. As we just reviewed, saturated fat should make up less than 5 to 10% of our total calories. On a 2,000 calorie per day diet, this means 100 to 200 calories come from saturated fats. When we are at the grocery store, how do we know how much and what types of fat are in a product we want to buy? Let's practice reading a nutrition label on this slide. There are many sections to a nutrition label, as you can see, but today we will focus on two areas, the serving size and the fat section. First, let's look at the serving size section. How much is the nutrition label talking about compared to how much we plan to eat? Will you eat the amount listed, or will you eat twice as much? The serving size is not telling you how much to eat. It is just a measurement used to list nutrition information. Let's move down to the fat section of the nutrition label. Here we will find total fat, saturated fat, and trans fat amounts listed. On this nutrition label, we can see that the serving size is 1 bar, so the total amount of fat in this bar is 9 grams. Of those 9 grams of fat, 2 grams are saturated fat. We can also see on this label that there are 0 grams of trans fat in this bar. So now we know where and how to identify the amount and types of fat in our foods, but how do we convert grams into calories? 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. Let's do some practice calculation using the nutrition label for this bar. The bar has 9 grams of fat in it. By multiplying 9 grams of fat by 9 calories per gram, we get 81 calories from fat. On this slide are some examples of saturated fats, which we can identify because they are typically solid at room temperature. As we reviewed earlier, consuming an excess amount of saturated fats can increase LDL cholesterol levels in the blood. This includes butter, coconut oil, palm oil, ice cream, beef fat or tallow, poultry, especially with the skin, pork, lamb, and beef. In the United States, some of the biggest sources of saturated fats are found in pizza and cheese, whole and reduced fat milk, butter, and dairy desserts, meat products like sausage, bacon, beef, and hamburgers, and cookies and fast food. On this slide are some examples of unsaturated fats. We have broken it down into monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. Our monounsaturated fats include avocados, nuts and nut butters, pumpkin and sesame seeds, and oils such as olive, canola, and peanut oils. Remember what we reviewed earlier. Monounsaturated fats can help lower our LDL or lousy cholesterol. On the right side of the slide are examples of polyunsaturated fats. These fats are found in fish like salmon and bluefin tuna, flax seeds, walnuts, and oils such as sunflower, corn, soybean, and flax oils. Remember, polyunsaturated fats can help us lower our LDL cholesterol and may even help increase our good HDL cholesterol. Because of this, using unsaturated fats instead of saturated fats can help lower the risk of heart disease, stroke, and high blood pressure. We just reviewed sources of both saturated and unsaturated fats and talked about the importance of choosing unsaturated fats instead of saturated fats. Let's put your knowledge to the test and rank different cooking oils from most saturated to most unsaturated. This exercise will help you choose what oils to use when you're cooking. Let's start by identifying the oil highest in saturated fat. This is coconut oil. Next is ghee, then butter. After butter is palm oil. Next is lard, and then Crisco. Next is margarine spread like Smart Balance, then vegetable oil, then avocado oil, and olive oil. Finally, the oil highest in unsaturated fats is canola oil. Now that we've talked about the cooking oils to choose to reduce the amount of saturated fat we eat, let's learn how to make simple swaps to reduce our saturated fat intake while still enjoying the foods we love. On this slide, we have a few ground meat options. The one furthest to the left is 80-20 ground beef, meaning it has a fat content of 20% and 8 grams of saturated fat per serving. The next on the left is 90-10 ground beef, meaning it has a fat content of 10% and 4.5 grams of saturated fat per serving. The ground white turkey is 97-3, meaning it has a 3% fat content and 1 gram of saturated fat per serving. Finally, all the way to the right, we have a plant-based meat substitute. You might think that the plant-based meat substitutes are lower in fat or saturated fat than their meat counterparts, but that is not always the case. If we look at the nutrition label for the Beyond Burger patties all the way on the right, we see that there's 5 grams of saturated fat per serving. Compared to the 90-10 ground beef, there's more saturated fat in the Beyond Burger than in the beef. This shows the importance of reading the nutrition label. Another note about plant-based meat substitute products, it is important to pay attention to the added sodium in these products, which you can also find on the nutrition label. Now that we've reviewed swaps to make with meat to reduce our saturated fat intake, let's look at other swaps we can do every day to help lower the saturated fat we eat. Instead of cooking with butter or coconut oil, you can cook with canola or olive oil. We can replace fried chicken with chicken breast cooked in an oven or an air fryer. Instead of eating beef, we can eat fish. And instead of pork sausage, we can eat chicken sausage. We can use Greek yogurt in place of sour cream. And instead of cream cheese, we can try peanut butter. A good substitute for ranch dressing dip is hummus. And instead of using cheddar cheese on a turkey sandwich, try using an avocado. Instead of ordering your coffee with whole milk, you can order it with skim milk. Finally, we can replace ice cream with frozen yogurt. Let's review. There are 2 types of cholesterol, LDL and HDL cholesterol. Lousy or LDL cholesterol in our blood is deposited on the walls of our arteries. This can lead to negative cardiovascular outcomes, including heart disease, stroke, and high blood pressure. Good or HDL cholesterol acts as a garbage truck. This cholesterol moves around our blood and removes the LDL or lousy cholesterol from the blood. The type of fat you eat has an impact on your blood LDL and HDL levels. Excessive saturated fat intake is associated with an increase in LDL cholesterol and a decrease in HDL cholesterol. On the other hand, unsaturated fats help lower our LDL cholesterol and may even improve our HDL cholesterol. It is important to choose unsaturated fats over saturated fats for this reason. It is easy to distinguish saturated and unsaturated fats because saturated fats are typically solid at room temperature, while unsaturated fats are typically liquid at room temperature. Congratulations, you are now a heart-healthy fat expert. What are some goals you can make to reduce your saturated fat intake or incorporate more unsaturated fat into your diet? Example goals are written on this slide. Instead of pork sausage, I will choose chicken sausage. Instead of using sour cream, I will try Greek yogurt. Instead of cooking with butter, I will use canola or olive oil when cooking. And instead of 80-20 ground beef, I will try ground white meat turkey.